I don't know if you want to show this to later when we are going to lose our stories.
y'all hear me? Just to make sure y'all can hear me. Y'all know I be like messing up my stream at the beginning and ain't nothing changed. And I'm sorry for being late. It's so like me to be late to my own like stuff. It wouldn't be like me if I was late. So, I had to come a little bit late. Okay, let me get Jane on the camera. That's what we all here for. All right. Okay. Jane, can you hear us? Bestie, we can't hear you.
Okay, here I am. Yeah, every time I press the microphone, it stays off. Hi
Okay.
everyone. My
camera
camera will
froze.
be awful because Discord is always awful with me. With my camera, I don't know why, but hi everyone. I hope you are doing well.
Hi, besties. I just want to say hi. Thank you guys so much for coming. Like, I really appreciate it. I think I can speak for both of us when I say that we really, really appreciate it. I am so happy to have everybody here. So, um, I guess we can do like introductions first since we are a little bit late, so we don't want to get to like the meat and gravy right now because we a little bit late. Um,
My
so
camera even froze in your screen.
it
Oh my
froze
god.
again. Did it really?
Yeah.
No, it shouldn't be. It's not frozen for me.
No, no, on Discord it's fine. It's on the stream that I notice that it gets frozen.
Is it still like beating us up right now?
No, no, at the moment it's just flicking green. But I don't know if it's just
No, it
repeating
was
the same
doing that
stuff over and
before.
over.
We went
Okay, it looks like it's fine.
live. Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm so
No, it's okay.
sorry. I'm so
It's
sorry.
okay. It's okay. Think I should go for a new camera when I can. Okay,
I think you still look great. You still look great.
thank you.
Okay.
It's just Discord though, because I use the same camera for OBS on my streams, and I never have issues. When I am on Discord, everyone always has this kind of problem. I don't know why.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get to know each other for a bit, all right? Let's introduce ourselves. For everybody that don't know me, my name is Tanny. My pronouns are she, her, and I am currently a junior in college studying law, justice, and social change, but I am a sociology major with a minor in crime and justice. Um, After I graduate college, I do plan on attending law school just so I can open up my own firm and represent minorities. So that's a little bit about my life outside of Twitch. Right now, I found Twitch in the peak of the pandemic, and I found streaming in the peak at the same time. And I am here solely just vibing out and wanting to build a community where everybody can be themselves. And yeah, that is me. Like, if you ever was like wondering where my like obsession with social change or like activism come from, it comes solely from the fact that I'm a sociology major. So yes, that is me. Now, Jane, do you have anything you would like to introduce yourself to the folks?
Sociology was one of my favorite things to study when I was at university. I graduated in communication studies. And it's not just a reference to the DBD lore, but I am really a graduation in communication studies. I'm a transgender content creator. I started to work this kind of content since I came out. So this happened. I think that a lot of people know my story, but it's always emotional to tell it. So it happened thanks to the demise of the Faithful chapter in Dead by Daylight, where after knowing the character of Jane, that was really close to me as goals in life and as attitude in general, because I kind of act like her in everyday life situation. and this made me start role playing her. And the more I started relating with people as Jane, the more I got how I was actually showing a part of myself to the real me. So this actually helped me at coming out, and during these years, I was like, you know what? I would like to create a sort of the Jane Romero show, speaking about taboos and topics that no one wants to speak about, like, for example, the transgender topics, to an audience, to introduce stuff that I wish I could know before video game DLC. Because unfortunately, I come from Italy, and here we don't have a lot of uh, discussions around trans topics. So even in television, when there is a trans person, there is always a lot of speaking. Even in political discussions, and I was like, maybe it's important to show that we exist, to show that we exist even before all the medical process, because a lot of people only stand at speak about HRT and surgery, but trans people are valid since the moment that they come out. So I wanted to immediately be open, immediately be myself with my audience, with the community, and I chose to make this as a life goal. So it's a really hard one, but I'm really motivated because I think that it's important, and I think that it can be more important also to people who have to, first of all, to trans siblings who have to still understand something more about themselves, and second point about cis people who have to understand how to interact with trans people, how to welcome us more, how to be more respectful, and yeah, this is who I am and what I'm trying to do. Before being a content creator, I was a video game journalist and then a video game PR for some video game companies through a communication agency, and then I chose to, you know, become a content creator, so going to the other side of the desk. So here I am.
Oh my gosh, I love you. No, we just love Jane. We just stand Jane. Jane is amazing. Um, we love Jane. Okay, so that is a little bit about us. Um, if y'all want to share who y'all are, maybe y'all name and y'all pronouns in chat, that would be very nice. Cause this is a conversation, besties. We're all having a conversation. Like we've all gathered you all here just so we can talk about a very important topic to I think a lot of people. So I don't want you guys to get like trapped in this thing of feeling like all you have to do is just listen and like no, it's a conversation. So before we start and like get to the nitty gritty and like the meat and the potatoes of like why we here, I just want to set a few ground rules that would make this conversation a lot easier and more comfortable for all of us. So for starters, we just really want to ask that you all come with an open mind. I really want you all to just understand that this is a place where we can all learn from each other. It's not just one person speaking or just us speaking and like we know everything. I do not know everything. Okay, I am only 20. Um, oh my gosh, Lily, thank you so much for that raid. Welcome on in, everybody. But yeah, so we really want to set the forefront that this is a please keep an open mind. This is a space so we can all learn from each other. The next thing that I really want to set is the idea of commitment. I am a firm believer on like you get out what you put into this. So if you want to get more out of this event, like put in more work. We ask that you show up not only here with listening, but show up with adding to the conversation. Like I just previously said, we do not have all the answers. We can only speak from our experiences and our perspectives, and I'm pretty sure you guys can add to the conversation with your own unique experiences. And the last thing, because I'm not like a huge stickler on rules, is just to be respectful. So Jane and I will only be speaking from what we have gone through. And I want to start off, I want you guys to kind of understand and kind of ponder on the idea of intersectionality, which is just understanding that people who share multiple identities have a different and unique experience. um, for starters, I am a black bisexual woman living in America. My experience with racism and sexism and everything else that I go through in my day to day life is going to look completely different from what Jane goes through in her life. And I'm pretty sure that if you identify with any of the identities I just mentioned, your experience is going to look completely different from mine. So I really want everybody to kind of like understand and grasp that everybody has a different, unique experience that they can bring to this conversation. And we just ask that while listening to our experience, don't try to talk over us or other people in chat or your peers just because what they say don't align with what you with what you've experienced. Okay, so now that we got that out the way, let's talk about why we're here. Um, so we really want to start that discussion about pushing for proper representation for all communities, and in particular, we're going to be talking about BIPOC and the LGBTIA plus community. Um, More so in the term of video game spaces. Well, everything that we're going to talk about today can be applied to every video game. It's not just limited to Dead by Daylight. We are going to be talking about in terms of DBD because that is the game that has brought us all here today. So we are going to be talking about representation in the terms of DBD. Okay. So, let's just talk about it. What's going on in DVD? What's happening? Let's bring a picture. I thought they added a pride charm. That's your representation. They have a black survivor. That's your representation. Um, let's kind of Jane. Let's
We have
describe the
Asian survivors
situation.
as well. We have Asian survivors as well because it's not only about us.
Yeah. Okay, Jane. So, how would you describe what is going on in DVD right now in terms of representation and everything else?
Well, in terms of representation, I think we have to speak about the two different sides of DBD. DBD as the game and DBD as the community, because the community is an important side of the game, and I have to be honest, Dead by Daylight is one of the games who know it, because they have a ton of community managers. They have a really well-structured community manager team, so they know how important it is. The thing is that there are some realities in the community as well that we want to expose, we want to speak about because it's amazing when we see folk whispers and content creators representing more sides of the community on outlets and articles. But it's also true that there are users, players, and smaller content creators who have to face still harassment and other kind of challenges as DVD players. And this is a topic that we are gonna expand later. About the game itself, speaking from my point of view as a trans woman, trans lesbian woman, at the moment, the representation is mainly based on the headcanons of the community. So, for example, I could come out thanks to Jane, but it's not written anywhere if she's cisgender or if she's transgender. So it's something personal that, as a woman, I could relate with the character. But I can imagine how this coming out process could be even smoother, even more inspirational if, for example, we had a trans girl survivor. And speaking again about the community, because I repeated, these two things have to go with each other. We cannot just look, okay, we have a trans character in the game, perfect, amazing. the problem of Dead by Daylight is also that till we don't afford that this kind of contents can be object of harassment inside the community itself, we have to keep speaking about the topic itself. What do I mean? That every time, for example, I tried to promote trans representation in Dead by Daylight, you had always people saying stuff like, "Oh, but who cares? It's just a game where you have to kill people. I don't mind who they are." Or, if there is a trans survivor, they can be tunneled, hardcore tunneled, face camped, and harassed. And the thing is that, unfortunately, it can be true. But this doesn't have to be something that has to scare us at putting representation in the game. So, with the representation, we need at the same time a strong reporting system and a stronger community who stands against this kind of attitude. I have to be honest, lately, people who follow me know that I had to deal with some issues of transphobia in the community. I really appreciated how the community reacted to this and how they helped at kicking some
Liniacs are cheered,
transphobes from
X200.
tournaments or other kind of situation. But at the same time, it's still scary that for example, we had the mods of some streamers being in the community for more years and sharing transphobic opinions in the community of the content creators, pushing away the trans people of the community. And this is something that we, especially as content creators, we have to be careful for, because our community is the place where our users have to feel safe. So it's amazing. I really believe that behavior is not afraid of putting representation in the game, because how they acted during the Pride Month, I saw them really interested in the representation. I know that not everyone agrees with me, but I spoke personally with developers of behavior, and I know how they care. Also because developers in the team are LGBTQ as well, so it's in their interest to put representation in the game. So I really think that they are not afraid, like for example, to put a trans character or to give more representation. But at the same time, we as a community and the game itself should be stronger at condemning this kind of toxic harassment. Because I noticed that even in some situations, like for example the competitive community, and I have to be honest, they are working really hard to kick all the toxic elements, but they even themselves are surprised of how many times they had to do this. And or communities of content creators will discover that one of their mods is a transphobe. Like this stuff is scary, because if we have this kind of people really close to us, it means that there is a sort of control was lacking, or that we didn't pay enough attention to this kind of situations. So these two things have to go with each other. At the moment, yeah, the LGBTQ representation in the game is only in the heart before the mind of the fans. But I'm pretty sure that something will happen, also because they announced it, like they announced the collaboration with GamerX, and I'm pretty sure that things will go smoothly. Like I have to say that a lot of people complained, like, oh, why did they ask to an association to help them at writing the character? But I think it was the best idea if they didn't have clear ideas about how to be respectful about representation, because especially with trans characters, to fall in stereotypes that can like make the character looking weaker in a narrative point. I prefer to have someone who actually support the writers of the developers team at developing the character. So this thing is gonna happen, but I'm pretty sure, like, not because I know stuff, but because I have faith in what they announced until now. But at the same time, because of this reason, we have to be even more ready to face what's going to come after that. And I say this because, and now I want to share your experience and to introduce your idea about this topic as well. We could see how, for example, removing the booba faces actually had yeah, it was something amazing. I think that everyone within this chat is celebrating it, but at the same time how even more artful was for content creators dealing with everything that happened after that the thing was announced. And from even from my point of view, just explaining, just inviting people at looking at Tani or at Karen's contents about this. First of all, I had to deal with people joining my chat and being racist as well, like just speaking about the topic, and I didn't even announce that I was going to speak about these topics. And then looking at even content creators. I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm dissing people, like I'm not even making names, but I think that we have a responsibility as content creators. And looking people making jokes. I saw someone playing with Claudette only for that night. They never played Claudette, and like going around. Oh, if the killer is going to kill me, I'm gonna denounce them for racism, and like making the whole topic looking not important as it was. Or other content creators who attacked like, oh yeah, behavior always looking at the stuff that is not really important. They should afford racism in other ways. But how can you know what's the whole topic if you didn't live the experience on your own? Like, inform yourself before speaking about a topic, or just say, this is not my topic, this is not my experience. So go to look at content creators who spoke for a long time about this and can explain this better to you. So, and this is what happened just for removing the booba faces. I pretty sure that we have to be ready for something similar if the representation is going to be added, because I'm pretty sure that, yeah, it will be an amazing moment for all of us, but at the same time, we are gonna have to be stronger and making our community feel safer, because I really care about people. Like, if we have a trans survivor, for example, I want people who want to play something that represents them feeling safe while doing it, like feeling happy while doing it, and not being afraid that if they join a lobby they can be tunneled because of the character. Unfortunately, Dead by Daylight is a game where if you want to make someone feeling miserable, because of the nature of the game, it's not the fault of anyone, but you can do it. You can making that person feeling like what's going on is personal, and that's why I think that we should be even more careful and speaking a lot more about what's going on without belittling every kind of experience of any person, content creator, or user.
I think that was beautiful, and I think that pretty much summed up the huge problem with what's going on right now in DBD. I really like how you mentioned the importance of separating DBD the game and DBD the community, because it's two different aspects. Like, of course, the developers of the game can control what happens in the game, um, and they can add representation and add other things to the game to make their player base feel welcomed and other stuff. But then at the same time, you also have to address the level of harassment that goes on to these players who choose to identify um, through methods or stuff that they find identifies with them, like wearing the pride charm or playing Claudette, simply playing Claudette. So I think that was a really good way of summing up the issue that's happening in DBD. And of course, we can want more representation, but we do need to also try to add a safety element to people that's happening in this game. Like, transphobia in in-game chat is ridiculous. Racism in in-game chat is absolutely ridiculous. The harassment that people can actually go through just because they find out you're live on Twitch is absolutely ridiculous. And it's really important to understand that it's okay to add representation to the game. Like, you don't have to, but at the same time we need to make sure we're doing it and that the people that we are representing are safe. because safety in video games is really important. One thing that I really don't like is when people try to separate the people who play the game from the actual game. Like, yeah, we all play DBD, but at the same time, we're still humans behind the camera. Like, we're behind the game. We're still human. And people try to diminish the argument of adding representation by, oh, it's just a video game. Get over it. Da da da. But it is very powerful to see yourself in media, to see people that look like you and identify as you in media, whether it's a movie or a video game or anything. It can be a damn slideshow. It's very, very powerful to see people that look like you. Um, and the topic of representation in video games, like I said, isn't just limited to DBD. Everything we can talk about all video games and how they can add more rep. And at the same time, as other video games that are adding representation. Like, I know Fortnite is very big on adding representation, but you need to make sure you're doing it in a safe way to protect the communities that you are representing. So I just feel like that was a very beautiful way to kind of sum up this issue and the experience that we have going on with it. So this is going to lead us straight into our next point of what does representation mean to you guys? And that's a question too, by the way. I would really like a response.
So,
um, and
one
I'll
thing
go
I want to
first.
add is,
Hmm.
i- yeah, it's about all video games, and I, you know, for example, today looked at the GLAD nominations for the awards, and like one of the characters who was nominated was Oza from Rainbow Six. Like Oza announced for that game was a huge deal because Rainbow Six is one of the biggest multiplayer games around. So having a trans representation there with trans players and content creators actually actively involved in the development of the character was like something really huge and really important. But the difference with Dead by Daylight is that Oza is in a situation where she fights at the same way of her opponents. And in a game like Rainbow Six, unless it's in chat, and that's another whole topic. Like if you, unfortunately, we know how, especially FPS communities and competitive FPS communities can be, but it's still a situation where you feel like you can fight your opponents with the same weapons, you know. And in Dead by Daylight is a bit different. Like, why do I say this? Because well, you can tell your experience by your own. If, for example, a booba wants to hardcore focus on you to make you feel like it's about you, yeah, you can have a good chase and everything, but you'll have that kind of interaction with the other person where you're gonna feel like, okay, this person has something with me. Why this? And then the intentions are more clear in the chat, and or if you are streaming your Twitch chat. So even also because of this reason, we have to be more careful about our game, because unfortunately, DBD it's not even fault of the game itself. Like I cannot even find a solution about that if not kicking their assets, because the game works like that. And that's why it's even more important to work all together for the representation in the game, because representation can be also a sort of target in our on our head. But I don't want at the same time that this becomes a reason to be afraid of playing the characters that we feel can represent us more, or to stop wearing the pride charm. I had people reacting in my comments when I denounced the transphobia episodes, telling me, Jane, I had more people pointing at my pride charm while I was on the hook, and they face camped me. So that from that moment, I stopped using the pride charm, and that shouldn't happen. So we have to be more careful about what's going on. We have to acknowledge that this kind of stuff keeps happening, because if we have to go for more representation, we are gonna expose even more people who are gonna be battered or being people happy to be themselves in their favorite video game. It's something that sounds crazy, but unfortunately, if there is something I learned since my coming out, is that people can be mean for the total less obvious reason, because this is so no sense for us, but unfortunately there are people who actually live only for that. It's kind of scary if we think about it. Sorry if I interrupted you, but I really wanted to stress that
Yeah.
how more important is being um, careful about that by daylight for for this kind of things.
No, I 100% agree. DBD does have the distinguishing quality of being able to make every game feel personal. I don't know if that makes sense, but like if you play in Fortnite, it's so many people running around. There's no way you can feel personally attacked. But DBD does have that like intimacy kinda where it's really make it easy for people to be racist or really homophobic because you have that personal feeling like you mentioned, somebody being able to point at you, point at the charm on your hook and then like face camp you or whatever. um so yeah, so as far as that goes, rep- representation is important because it's very powerful at representing all community. The impact that it has on the individual is very powerful and meaningful. Like Jane already mentioned with her story of being able to find who she was in Jane, like that is very powerful. I will never forget the feeling that I have of seeing a black Cinderella. It's just things like that that is so important and it's key to you like finding out things about your identity. So representation is really important, and to me representation is accurately representing the world, not the twisted painted fantasy that they want you to see where everything is white and everybody is straight and everybody just obeys everything. Not that picture, the picture that represents everybody from all walks of life, all sexualities and differing religions. That's what representation means to me. um and I could speak all day long on like the racism that I have went through in my life and that I have went through on the game, but I feel like I do that already. Like I do that a lot. um and I'm trying to see if I want to. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That is traumatic. Okay, you will never forget like situations like that. You just won't. And I don't care what anybody say, you won't ever forget stuff like that. Um even on the game, and it doesn't matter if it's on the video game, it happens. So yeah. um what I will say is I have grown significantly because I just came from such a weird. Oh my gosh, you're telling me to talk about it. Oh my gosh, no. Okay, about me. Let's do a little bit. I'm from Chicago, if you guys did not know, and I came from a neighborhood in a town that everybody looks like me. Every class, every every activity, and I go outside my house, I'm surrounded by people that look like me. Um, and then I came to college and I go to a predominantly white institution, which is a PWI. It has over 50,000 students, and less than 3% of those students are black. And we can talk about gender too, but that's a whole nother situation. Um, and I've for the past 3 years, my race has been very apparent to me. Like before, I was in this whole comfortable shell of not really feeling racism because I was around people that looks like me. And then everything that was racist or things that did happen that we shouldn't have laughed off, we kind of all laughed off. So I think got I kind of learned to normalize racism when I was younger, until I went to college and everything was just pushed out on the forefront. So as far as video games going, I have some really traumatic experiences that I don't think even my close friends know. Um, that will happen in game chat or people just sending you really nasty messages after games, because majority of the time that I play DBD or I play any video games, it was on PlayStation. And the beautiful thing about PlayStation is you can't really change your username, especially on like DBD. You can't change your username, so you have to commit to whatever weird username you want and make that your whole PlayStation name. So for a long time, I made my PlayStation name with TTV in it because I was just starting out on Twitch and I never really thought it was going to be that big of a deal. But the hate that would come after matches, and we laugh and be like, yeah, it's just a game, bro. The hate that would come after matches, and some people, like, all the hatred that they hold in their heart really comes out once they know that you're black. And I really truly feel like that. um the beauty of being on PC, I can click continue and just move on and not even open up in game chat. But DBD is very weird as far as like, if somebody want to be racist, they can be racist. You know what I mean? On Fortnite, I could just close out the match. Like nobody can say nothing to me. They can't even find my profile. Um, so DBD does have that personal aspect where they can make the game feel personal and feel about you. I think the other day on stream, I was playing a game and I was playing Claudette, and I was playing with my friend, and it was two Claudettes and it was two Nias. We was a full Swift. The killer just only wanted to tunnel out me and the other Claudette. You can't tell me I'm not supposed to feel no type of way when stuff like that happen, and then you like ignoring the Nias and you like dancing with the Nias. So yeah. So moving on, is Jane, is there anything you would like to add to
Yeah,
why is representation in games and media important?
another thing that will make it really important is that adding representation is at the same time, how can you say, a sort of a taking position from the developer team. Like, if you, I speak about my experience and my personal, of course. But for example, if you add a trans character, it means that for you, trans people are valid. And this is already a way to not only acknowledge the topic in general, but also to validate the users in your community who actually recognize themselves as part of the trans community. So it's not only about, of course, having a character and giving representation, being inspirational to the trans people of your community, but also to show where you stand for. And this is really, really important, in my opinion, because till we are in this gray area, okay, I had the support of all the developers every time I had to deal with some episodes and everything. But till that moment, it will be like people don't really have a way to, like, how can I say? Let's take the example of the booba faces. Till that moment, they felt legitimate at using the faces because they were like, oh, you know, the developers put this in the game. This doesn't mean that I'm racist if the developers think that this is fine in the game. What did have to happen to actually make also the people who just used it with by being ignorant, they had to start recognizing that what they were using is racist. Not all of them, unfortunately. Some people are still sticking to their point of view, but I hope that they can educate themselves. But a lot of other people are starting to look at what's a blackface. I make the example of Italy, because in Italy, unfortunately, the topic of the blackface is not really spoken. And you have to imagine that till a year ago, we had even TV shows who actually went for that. So just imagine. And but having the developers taking a clear decision, like we are going to remove this because we think that this is artful and we admit that we messed up with this, actually was showing their position about the topic. Was saying, okay, we recognize that this was problematic and we are going to get rid of it. And at the same time, adding representation has a similar effect, as the effect of showing that for developers, LGBTQ people, trans people, in the case they are going for something like this, exist and are valid. So, and this is a message for the whole community as well. It means, you know, we know that for Dead by Daylight developers, trans people are valid. So, it's very important in my opinion. It's not only about the game itself, but it's also about the whole scenario that is gonna to be open with not only the Dead by Daylight community, but also Dead by Daylight and the gaming community. Because I can be a trans person who knows nothing about Dead by Daylight. I can read on a video game outlet Dead by Daylight is going to add the first trans girl survivor in their game, and me, trans girl, who's or just coming out, or who's already out for years, can say, "Oh, there is a representation in this game. It means that behavior is standing for trans people. I want to join this community. I want to take part to this, to all of this." And I think it's very important. Like,
Yeah,
it's all about what we want to communicate to the gaming community.
I agree. I think representation in media and in games is very powerful for the consumer, for the people
I
who
cannot
are.
hear you.
Oh, am I muted? Hello? Wait, what? Oh, oops. Can you hear
Okay,
me
now
now?
I can. Now I can.
My bad, girl. Okay, so I was just saying that I agree with you, and that I think representation in media is very important and very powerful for the consumer because it validates them. It validates their scenario, their life, their experiences. So it can be as simple as adding a charm, but it's very powerful for the people who are consuming that media. And so, and now that we're on the topic of we have already established what representation is to us and why is it important. Let's talk about how we can improve. So right now we're going to be talking about in terms of DBD, and let's talk about the rep in DBD. Um, we know we got some people of color represented, so there's no problem there. But what I will say is when you compare the number of original DLCs to other DLCs, like clearly ones that were not created from the developers, mm, it's looking a little bland. Not gonna lie, it's looking a little bland. It's not looking colorful. And since DVD does have the power of creating their own DLCs, I do feel like diversity should not be a problem right there. It should not be a problem with adding representation. And I do understand that there comes a challenge of doing it correctly and not wanting to offend the communities that you help, but at the same time diversifying your staff and etc can help make that little burden easy, or ask the community. So yes, so let's talk about some positive representation to me in DVD. And I would say that's the Greek goddess collection of for Elodie. And I think Claudia got a nice pretty gold dress. For me, that is very powerful. Like representing Elodie and Claudette in these powerful queen um attire is very powerful for me. Seeing Claudette in braids, having her afro was very validating for me because loving my natural hair was a journey that I did not come to do until like a year ago. Because all I was taught my whole life was that my natural hair was unprofessional, untamed, and just ghetto. So being able to see Claudia with an afro in the game is just powerful on that point alone. Seeing Elodie in box braids is powerful in that point alone. Those are things that you can do, adding cosmetics that adhere to people and represent people in an accurate way and how we actually are. Is so powerful. So those cosmetics really stood out to me. Adding the LGBT charm was a great starting point. I do feel like the power of charms can be extended. You can add a BLM charm, you can add a transgender charm, you can add a bisexual charm. You can literally add every flag as a charm. And when they started and they added the first charm of the LGBT community, I was hoping that we were going to see them add more charms representing different standpoints, different walks of life. You can put a Me Too charm in there. Like you can be so creative with the type of charms that you add, and that could be a simple way that the game can improve by adding representation. Let's talk about some negative rep that I don't think people really talk about. I was really happy to see Smart Face Bubba disappear. To be honest, when I first the thing that when I first brought it to Twitter, the time that you guys can remember, that wasn't my first time bringing up that conversation, and it wasn't the first time that that conversation was brought up. Like the Black community been talking about how it was an accurate representation of modern day blackface. That wasn't the first time. Um, I just think Twitter hates me, and I think they just love to argue with me. So anytime I say anything, I just think Twitter just be eating it up, and I don't know why that took so much heat, but it happened. Blackface Bubba, like camping and targeting people of color, was going under the radar. Like people did not think that was happening. It was such a thing. It was such a real thing. Another aspect is Megan with cornrows, and I know her name is Meg. I just call her Megan. Um, that is cultural appropriation all day long. We can argue about how hair is not important, but I think I might win that debate with you. But I'm all here for people offering their insight about how it's not cultural appropriation, but it's cultural appropriation. To see Megan with cornrows first, and not Claudette and not Elodie, that doesn't sit right with me. It doesn't sit right with me, and it's very is giving when they used to mock Black people at fashion shows just because they can, just because they didn't want to include Black people and they just want to make a mockery of us. I just don't. I don't like the cosmetic personally, and I just think it's offensive. That's another thing that could be changed. And when I brought that conversation up on Twitter about Megan with cornrows, we had a nice, beautiful modder named Cam reworked that whole cosmetic and added on Elodie. So, like I said, things can be changed around just to make the game feel more welcoming and more like a fair picture of representation for different communities. And those are just some certain ways. Those are just little things that they can do to improve. I really would like to see more in terms of the diversity and where these people come from in their lore. Lore is a very big part of gaming experiences. Whether you like it or not, whether you read it or whatever, people will die on lore. Like people, there's a part of DBD that actually really enjoys reading lore and adding that element to these characters, which is why people get really upset when people make cosmetics that don't fit their lore. So I don't feel like adding a lore that represents the LGBT community or the Black community or different people of color is difficult. I don't think that's a thing that can be difficult. And I feel like right now the game has evolved in so many years. With so many years, we can see some updates on already existing characters' lore. Because, like, let's be honest, first few characters, their lore it's kind of dry. it's kind of bland. So yeah, so those are some examples that I had of ways the game can improve to add more representation. Of course, I would really love to see a transgender character. I feel like that is not a hard thing to do, and I am very here for it. I would also like to see some same-sex couples written somewhere in the lore, or maybe in like an original DLC, you can do a tag team and put them both in there. Like I don't know. I'm just saying, just adding some stuff. But I would also like to hear what you guys think. What are some ways that you guys would like to see DBD represent different communities in their, like, in lore, in cosmetics, in other ways? But just to refresh what we talked about before, about like the experiences of what actually going on, I would really, really like to see a solid report system on like ban and feedback. Like I know in some games you can't even mutter the N word. Your account will be gone the next day. I would really like to see some updates in the report system just so we can protect these communities when we do add representation. Because I do believe it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. I have faith that it's going to happen. But at the same time, you need to make sure you're protecting these communities. Because the type of racism that I face on a day-to-day basis, just because I made a tweet about Blackface Bubba or I even tweeted about this event, is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Okay, Jane, is there anything you would like to add about any representation you would like to see, what would you like to see in the game?
Well, I think that I've already been really clear about the point that I would like to see trans official representation in the game. The only thing, if they are going for it or not, we don't know the state. We don't know if they are going to make someone come out as trans or if this character will be a new one. The only thing I hope for is that it's not a killer. There is a really specific reason why I don't want the trans character being a killer. And it's that for years, if you look, you just have to look trans villain horror movies on Google or stuff like that. And you can see how the trans killer is a stereotype that has been portrayed for years in the horror genre. Because, queer someone who is not okay, murderer, and usually they make that the women are the victims of this particular killer. Like if you look at all the damages that the Silence of the Lamb did to the trans community because of Buffalo Bill, you you cannot even imagine. Like I suggest all of you to give a look at Disclosure. It's a documentary about trans representation. It is available on Netflix, and they speak a lot about Buffalo Bill and the Silence of the Lamb and why that character is so problematic for the trans community. But it wasn't the only one. Even the same Leatherface in the fourth movie, if I'm not wrong, has been classified as problematic because of the way the character acts while dressing as a woman. Or look at all the Alfred Hitchcock movies, for example, especially Psycho. Like, this is a topic and a stereotype that has been portrayed for a long time, and honestly, I would like to see a change in this trend. I would like to see a trans final girl, a trans heroine, affording and fighting bravely against all of these dangerous murders, and not them being portrayed as the evil side or as someone who has problems. Because for the Dead by Daylight lore, we can notice two different trends. The first one is someone who's clearly not okay, and you wouldn't. Okay, that everyone is in love with Trickster for how he looks like, but we can all agree that he's not an okay person. And the other kind of a character that usually is portrayed as a killer is the victim that is managed by the entity to become the monster. Look at the Rins, the spirit lore, or at Carmina, the artist lore. Like, I don't want to see both of these situations happening in the representation, because that wouldn't be representation. That would be just, I don't know. I wouldn't feel represented by that. I don't want to see a trans character being a victim of what Carmina had to face, for example, in the Portrait of a Murder lore, or I don't want to see this character at the same time being considered as a sociopath. I want this character being represented as one of us, as a normal person who just is just living their life as a trans girl or a trans man or a trans non-binary person. That's why I always insist when it's about representation to speak about survivors and not killers. And this is why it's also important to look at what I said before, because if they want to do it, they have to go for survivor. I repeat, we need to be all really careful about what's going to happen after they introduce a character like this. I'm pretty sure they are looking at it. I repeat, because I think that it's the right time to go for this kind of representation, and even removing the smart face made me see that after they listen to this kind of opinions by the community. But I repeat, I just hope they consider this stuff and they went for a survivor because if it's a killer, it would be I would be really really sad because honestly that topic is so old and I really I would even like to see a movie portraying trans characters, a horror movie portraying trans characters in a positive way and not just or as a humiliated victims because there are those kind of movies as well like there is even a topic not for trans character but like especially for gay characters where they always kill one of the couple like to create this sort of drama in the couple or like even in the last Halloween movies there was something like that and honestly I would like to see something new. I would like to see some real representation and some positive representation once in a while.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I would really like to see some diversity in like the lore that they write with the women. And can I get some shoes, please?
I
Like
cannot
since
hear
we
you,
like a
Elena.
oh, you can't hear me? Oh my gosh, did I mute myself? I think I muted myself. Can you hear me? I think you can
Yeah,
hear me
no, I
now.
can.
Okay, I
No, I
said
can.
just to add to that, summing up what I just said, I just said I agree with what you said, and I really would wish they would add some more diversity in the lore with the women. Like, can we please add some shoes to them? I'm like really tired of seeing every woman killer like run around the fog with no shoes on. It's just, I don't know. It's just something that just really bugs me. I would really like to see um kind of like the style of Carmina, but as a black woman. I would really like to see that because I think the only killer we have that's a woman uh that's black is Hag. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. I think she's the only one and she's Hag, she's Hag. So like so I would really like to see something like that, but I wouldn't want it to be like a huge negative portrayal. I just like you see the killers and like I said, they all look the same. And I really don't like that, especially when we look at the original DLCs for the survivors. They all look the same. And just to mention, we only have one black male survivor from an original DLC, and that's Adam. And it should not be like that because Felix could have been black. We didn't have to have a Felix. We didn't need him. We had Dwight. We did not need Felix. Um, so I really want to push that part of that. I would also like to see I want to get this on my chest. I really don't like how people sexualize Jane. I really don't like that. I would like to see more diversity in body types. Like I said, representation to me is representing everybody from all walks of life and just not the norm. I really don't like how they sexualize Jane. I think even her Twitch shirt got her like cleavage showing everything she has. Like they just really play into that fantasy that them e-boy gamers be eating on. Um, but I would like to see women represented nicely too, as well.
About the Jane, there is so much to say if I can, because living as Jane Romero in the community, you can imagine I could see everything. And yeah, to be honest, I like the idea of the character being represented as feeling sexy, because having this woman with a so-called different body type, but I think that all the body types are normal, like there is not diverse, but like from the standard of the other survivors, she's different, and feeling proud and showing her curves and everything, and feeling sexy and doing it, I think it's really cool. At the same time, it's still the issues I had to afford in the community because from one side, you have the people going for, as a Jane Romero, I join Jane mainstreams, and you can have the person who main Jane because they resonate with the character, or they just like the character in general, or you can have the person going for the camera on the beauty and going for the tea bag, like look at this, and you know what, like it's kind of cringe to have this tea bag on the screen all the time, like oh the beauty or the beauty, and Another thing is that a lot of times I notice that there is the beauty emote on the channel. Like everyone does what they do, but I don't know. Personally, this is something personal. Like I don't want to shame everyone about that, but I always felt like the whole characterization, the whole person behind the character was kinda nullified by this, and you know, you if you look like for Jane Romero on YouTube, you see a lot of videos who have I don't know, chasing the thick obsession. This is so thick. Look at the beauty and stuff like that. And you know, if try to read the lore of the character itself, for example, there is a if I'm not wrong, it's the second page of All the Stage Award lore from the second rift that they shared, and even the character itself is denouncing all of this because says I would like to just be seen as a woman, as an American woman, not just as the spicy Latina for sexy roles. And every time I see all of this, I feel like okay, a lot of people are missing the point. I can see that, like because she's a really good-looking character. I don't blame people who say that because it's normal. Everyone, it's, like being sexy and looking good is not a guilt, and admitting it is not a guilt. It's the when it's too much, like when you only go for that, that it kind of feels bad. It kind of feels like okay, we got it. We can move on. There is something more about the person. And this is one side. From the other side, of course, you have the harassers, and I had to deal with a lot of them. I had a period where, and you have to imagine that my first character, my first survivor in Dead by Daylight before the Mice of the Faithful was Kate. I had a period where I couldn't see Kate because I had to deal with so many Kate mains who were mad at the release of Jane because they had to say stuff like no, Jane is not the pick of the Survivor team because Kate is the one. Jane is just fat and I first of all, fat is not an insult. I want to be clear about that. I'm pretty proud of being fat. I'm pretty happy about how I look like, and it's just how I am. Like I don't understand why people use it as an insult. But I had a period where I couldn't stand Kate because I looked at these Kates around and I was like, okay, they are the ones who are shitting me all the time for being Jane and for playing Jane and starting these discussions. Thanks God, I noticed that this trend kind of stopped, but I had a period where I couldn't even enjoy Kate, and Kate in the lore is an angel, like she's a sweetheart, and it was so artful to look in the face of harassers behind that character. So you have these two phases, and as Jane, myself, I tried to spread a lot of awareness also about body positivity because I think that we have to be confident. We have any rights to feel sex in our own bodies. Trans bodies, muscular women, slim women, curvy. Like we have to be. Yeah, we have any rights to feel sexy. Like for example, we spoke about the body diversity. I really enjoyed that a character like you is in the game, like someone who's really muscular. I would even like to see someone who is even more muscular, like
Yeah.
I don't know, going for bodybuilding and stuff. That would be amazing because I think that every kind of body type and the muscular body type, the muscular woman body type, would be amazing representation as well. Like for example, Zarya in Overwatch for me was like a blast. I love everything of that character. And yeah, so there is this kind of issue on Jane too. Like I had to deal with that too. Like I had to be harassed for the body type. I had to deal with people being a bit too horny in my private messages because they wanted some kind of role play I wasn't agree with. Like
What? What?
I'm gonna say just this, and then I close. But I'm gonna tell two episodes. One is funny, not really, but because it made me feel uncomfortable for a whole evening. But I mean, this person wrote me a message to ask me what I feel when the entity gets into me during Endgame collapse. And I was like, "What the fuck are you asking?"
What? What?
So that kind of
What?
oversexualization that you say, actually, I had to deal with it on my private messages with people who are really horny for Jane. And then I
So
had
what?
another person who was a sort of a stalker and really, um, how can I say, oppressive um, follower who I discovered, first of all, he was living in his own fantasy, like thinking that we were in a couple and we were in a relationship. After that, I told them that I'm into girl, and it was a really I cannot even describe it. At second point, I discovered that he went even to people telling that we were in a relationship, and when I discovered that, I was literally mad at that. And then I was even too nice with them. Like I had to kick them at the first signs of the things showing itself as something problematic. But yeah, all both the sides of the perception of the community about Jane, I lived both my own skin with my channels, especially at the beginning when I was more active on Instagram, like the horny people and their assets.
I think just to kind of add on to like that end point, um I think DBD as a game from a game standpoint has the power to represent everybody correctly and accurately. Like being a game developer and being able to design people and then actually implement that into a game that a lot of people play, you have like a really big responsibility of being able to represent everybody as just normal people. You know, we're not asking for you to put a superhero in the fucking game. We're not asking for a superhero. We just want you to add us, everybody. Like not just the same stale narrative that people want you to believe is the world. We want you to add everybody. Um and I think it's really important that we note that it's really simple to do because just look around you. Like we surrounded by so many people with so many different identities with different experiences. And we live in a world where like the internet is everything. You can always learn something if you ever confused or something, or you can always ask questions. So to kind of start wrapping up this event, we're just gonna move more so into the portion of like, what are your goals for you, Jane, as a woman for 2022?
Can you repeat the question?
Just what are your goals for the new year? What's your goals?
Personal goals or goals in that by daylight as content creator and everything?
You can do both. It's they
Well,
intersect anyway.
as a personal goal, well, really soon I'm gonna start with HRT, and I'm really happy because first of all, I want to be clear about the HRT topic. Like, a trans woman or a trans man or a trans non-binary person is valid no matter what. If they choose, and they want to underline choose, going for a medical process or not. Like, we do it because we feel like it's what we want for ourselves. But the narrative around trans people shouldn't be only about surgery, HRT, and what the society says pass. We are valid as we are, and we have to remember that. I'm really happy and still proud that I chose to start showing the cam, showing myself and introducing myself as a trans woman before like working on my voice that I don't really like, but it's something personal, and going for the whole medical process. Like I could share every step since the early step of my story with my community, with the world by the community, and even outside of the by the community, because I was able to reach more people thanks to the outlets I started to write for, thanks to who invited me at Milan Games Week during the last year to speak about trans content creator experiences to a big video game audience. Like it was something really, really impressive. So my first goal is starting to feel better with myself and doing this stuff for myself. And this, thanks God, should happen really, really soon. The second goal is working even more on my contents because I feel like we started something during these years, and I would like to see this something becoming something more important for the people who already chose to trust me, for the people who felt inspired by what I did, because every time someone writes something like that to me, I feel like I owe them something. It's not like it stops there. I feel like it started a sort of relationship where I have to deserve the respect of the people who told me that. And because of this, I want to keep working on what I do and want to give more importance to these topics and allowing people who add what I call the pieces of the puzzle. Because, of course, I had some feelings in the past before coming out, like the Mice of the Faithful was what actually opened my eyes definitely, but I had other moments in my life where I felt closer to this side of myself than anything. And I would like to make these topics more normal and giving another window to this world to people who want to understand more about themselves and about who surround themselves. So not only for trans people, but also for cis people who want to understand more. In Dead by Daylight, well, starting to work more with the community as we are doing as today, like helping the community even more and understanding the importance of these topics. And second point, if there is the possibility to even support the developers in this, because I repeat, when we speak about representation, inclusivity, and these topics, I don't aim at pointing the finger and saying, "Oh, you're doing a bad job." I aim at creating a dialogue because I think that only with dialogue we can solve the problems, especially if it's about something we care about. Because if we don't care about, for example, Dead by Daylight or whatever the game, you just say, "Okay, I want to move to another game because I don't like what's going on here. I feel like the developers don't listen to me. I feel like it's just speaking to someone who doesn't care." And I don't think this is the case. Like, I think that there is the possibility of creating a dialogue. I want to do my part in this for behavior, for the community, and till I can do something. I know that I'm kind of small as content creator, but because of this reason, I'm more ambitious. I've always been really ambitious. This is another thing that I share with Jane of the Lore. Like, I don't close myself at the first failure and then I stop. But I aim at a quick talk and then at creating the J Romero show. And for this reason, to see that the goal is really big, I aim at doing even better to deserve to achieve it. What about you instead, Tani?
um, for me, for 2022, I really want to grow more as a person. I really want to I feel like I'm kind of at that age where I really want to get my life together outside of content and just kind of find a balance of me taking care of myself. I feel like 2021 I neglected my mental health and like me in general. So for 2022 I really just want to focus on me and like bettering my mental health. As far as like content creation and everything goes along those lines, I've started to notice that being a growing creator, because I don't want to say smaller, being a growing creator, um, you kind of get in this thing where you feel like you can't do something because you don't have the numbers or you don't have quote unquote the
Mm,
platform to do so. And I feel like 2021, I stopped myself from doing so many ideas. I stopped myself from doing so many different things simply based on the fact that I was afraid that I couldn't do it for some reason. Like I wouldn't be able to be enough. I couldn't do that charity stream and that didn't make sense. I really put myself in this box when I was just saying, "Oh, I'm just such a small creator. Like I can't do something like that. I can't do something as big like that." So 2021, I kind of like set this motto for myself to shoot for the stars. That's why when me and Jane was talking about this event, I was saying we can literally make it as big as we want it to be because I am really stopping putting myself in that box as a creator of thinking that I can't do something bigger because my number or I don't have a check mark next to my name. Well, I do understand companies and like games and different stuff. They won't want to work with me because I don't have a check mark. I guess I'm not valid in that point. I just 2022. I just really wanted to get to the point of feeling valid, regardless of numbers, regardless of stats and everything else. So, as far as like content and stuff like that, I just really wanna spread my wings on multiple platforms and just grow my community. I really like using my voice, whether it's gonna, regardless of the like feedback or whatever I get from other people. I really like doing it. I'm big on social change and stuff like that. I told y'all, like, y'all think I'm like this online. Wait till y'all see how I am in real life and like what I do on my college campus and stuff like that. So, I'm really hoping that doing this event for me just showed me that we can do other things with the community. Like we can do other things. I really do feel like as a content creator, you kind of have that responsibility of using your platform for something. I know a lot of people get just tied into talking about DVD. Like if they are a DVD content creator, they don't do anything else but talk about DVD. And if you talk about anything, any real life, you're making the game political or anything like that. I really just want to bring the person aspect back to like Twitch and gaming. Like we are real people behind these games that we play in. We have real experiences from the games that we play. So I'm hoping that 2022 I'll be able to do a lot more crazy events that will benefit the communities that I'm a part of, which is primarily the Dead by Daylight community. Um,
And this was
regardless of feeling
the
scared.
first step for us too.
You said what? Sorry, I couldn't hear
This
you.
was this was the first step for us too. Like we are already working for the second part of. We cannot share any details, but we are already working on something really, 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 really interesting for the second into this whole
Yes, we are.
step. So, and we cannot wait to share more, but we have to stay.
I know, and I'm like horrible at keeping secrets, but I'm big on keeping this one. I'm big on keeping these secrets, but I suck at
Yeah,
keeping secrets. But
yeah, same.
I am so excited for what the rest of 2022 has for us, and I'm really really thankful for everybody who showed up and gave us your time today. I I really appreciate you. You showing up today meant a lot to both of us. And I feel like meant a lot to this community. Like, please, we are real people with real experiences. Let's talk about something else other than DBD. Like, come on, let's talk about how to make the community better. Um, because we already know that DVD community is kind of shady, kind of sketchy. Not gonna lie, it's kind of sketchy. But let's just work on being a more of a community. We a community, but I feel like we always fighting. But yeah. So those are like my huge goals for 2022. Um, just growing as a person and growing as a content creator. I don't have no stats goals, no numbers goals, no nothing like that. If opportunities come my way that will make my year 10 times better, that'd be great. But I'm not going to bank the success of my year on if these things happen. I just want to grow as a person. Um, so yeah. So am I able to announce the little thing we got going on after this, Jane? Yet?
We want to do it now.
Oh no, it
Okay.
just doesn't. No, it just. Let me wait. Wait.
Okay. No, I was thinking if we had to show that clip we talked
Oh,
about.
oh yeah. The video you sent.
The
Oh,
the one of disclosure, because what me and Tani realized while we were speaking, how first of all this collab actually started, because during that period in December, both of us had to deal with two kind of hard situation. She had to deal with all the backlash from speaking about the Ubamas on Twitter, and at the same time I was dealing with the backlash at denouncing all the transphobia I noticed in the DBD community on my personal side and on the users who want to comment it. Because, at the end of the day, it's not about the harassers who should educate themselves, but it's about us. My camera definitely died. I was saying it's about us who should grow up a thick skin. This is what they say all the times. And we reached each other and we were like, I really support and really appreciate what you are doing, because I think that you are really brave for standing for this battle. It's really important, and I can see the changes that you are bringing to the community because of this. And then we were like, you know what, we can do something together to actually bring the whole attention on this stuff, and to collect all the experiences we are listening thanks to our work, and to make it become something bigger and more useful for the community. And we realized how actually the BIPOC community and the LGBTQ community always fight for each other in their history. Even the first Pride Month, if you look at how Stonewall and all the things that happened after Stonewall were made, it was thanks to trans black women who stand for their rights and who fought for their own rights. And at the same time, we realized how the whole topic of representation, how poor the representation was for black people and for trans people, was kind of on the same low level since the start of the story of the media, or since the start of the movie history, the cinema history. And we found, we found, I watched the personal disclosure and I remembered of this clip and I shared with Tan, and I was like, maybe sharing this will open the eyes to people that we are saying here about the DBD and about the gaming community is a so old topic that I would be surprised how what we are saying is actually something that is older more than 50 years. And it would be interesting to see it together and to actually invite you at thinking about how, thanks God, today we can speak about it. But I think that when these things started happening, we had no voices. Both of the community had really low possibilities of reaching audiences to denounce the problem and to ask for a better representation. Thanks God, today me and Tani can open a Twitch channel, reaching each other, reaching you, and speaking about you, and starting addressing the things on our DBD community, and not only DBD, hopefully. But the problem of representation is something that always have been important and problematic in the media history. And I don't know if Tanya agrees. I would like to show you this clip
for
to